The writing tip that I want to share with you folks today comes from a book that I've been reading, which I'll do a full, book review / breakdown of once I actually finish it, like I normally do. But I just recently started it. It's not done, so I'm not going to get into all that just yet. But I did pull out this tip to help drive a point home for myself, and that I thought was definitely worth sharing as well. The book is called The Writing Life by Annie Dillard. And I just recently heard of this book on a podcast, and I can't remember which one. I think it was when Louis C.K. was on Rogan, I think, but I'm not positive because I feel like I would have remembered that for sure. And like throughout the day, I listened to like on YouTube a bunch of different like clips from different podcasts and stuff like that in the background while I work. And this was one of those, either from a clip or an actual episode that I was listening to. This was from that. And when I heard it, I was like, oh shit, I never heard of that book before. And I obviously enjoy books on writing, like On Writing by Stephen King and The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, etc. Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, all of which I've spoken about ad nauseum on this podcast. So when I heard this one, gave it a quick Goog and ordered it right away on Amazon and started reading it recently. Anywho, Annie Dillard also won the Pulitzer Prize for a different book that she wrote called Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. And she won the Pulitzer Prize for that book in 1975 for general nonfiction. Anyway, the writing tip that I'm going to share with you guys today comes from another book, again called The Writing Life. And it's about the idea of a line of words for a writer being the writer's tool, similar to a hammer for a carpenter or a paintbrush for a painter, etc. And here's what she had to say about that. The line of words is a hammer. You hammer against the walls of your house. You tap the walls lightly everywhere. After giving many years attention to these things, you know what to listen for. Some of the walls are bearing walls. They have to stay, or everything will fall down. Other walls can go with impunity. You can hear the difference. Unfortunately, it is often a bearing wall that has to go. It cannot be helped. There's only one solution, which appalls you. But there it is. Knock it out. Duck. And this definitely rang true for me, as I'm sure it does for others. When you write something that you kind of like bias towards, you like it, you kind of like patting yourself on the back a bit, thinking you're hot shit or something. And then as you continue working on that novel or short story or that writing piece, you realize that sentence or that paragraph from page 10 that you fell enamored with in the beginning no longer really fits in your story. You may have even thought that someone someday would take those words, would take that excerpt and share it on a podcast of their own as a writing tip or a dope takeaway or a great line of dialogue. But alas, you are at the point where you realize, fuck, it doesn't fit. And you either have to try to rebend and shape all of the story you've written after that works, to try to fit that line or piece of dialogue or paragraph that you initially fell in love with. Or get on with it and do what you know needs to be done and knock down that bearing wall and duck. And similar to that concept in comedy, which I know I've also said this before on the podcast, so apologies if you're hearing it again, that concept within stand-up comedy that I hear of a lot of killing your darlings, having a closer, the bit that you end your show with that kills, and getting rid of everything before then and making that your opener. And the idea is to, you knock all your entire act down, but you build up from that high point and you elevate the rest of your show, the rest of your act by doing it that way. And it's a similar concept here with the type of writing that Annie Dillard is speaking to. Something that I like that she went on to say, like in another paragraph, still speaking about the same concept, but she says, you must demolish the work to start over. And you can save some of the sentences like bricks. And that's a cool concept. I know I've done this a bit where I'll take a bit that I cut out a bit. I'll take a line of dialogue or a paragraph or a piece, a chunk, whatever that I write within a story that I like, either like the phraseology of it, I like the pacing of it, the tone, I like something of it, but I know it no longer works in that story. and I'll cut it out and I'll put it in like a folder within Scrivener, which is the writing tool that I use mostly. A folder in there of cutouts, of stuff that I cut out from the story that I don't necessarily want to, junk or throw in the trash. Something that I might want to revisit later to maybe inject it somewhere else within the throughout the story or within the story, or to use it in something else altogether, or to help guide me and write dialogue similar to this for another story. And I definitely liken that to Miss Dillard's feedback there of saving some of those sentences similar to bricks, similar to the bricks you would use to build up a house. Save a sentence or paragraph or two and use those to create another story. And I thought that was dope advice. And once again, folks, that is coming from The Writing Life by Annie Dillard. And I will link to the book in the episode notes in case any of you guys or gals want to check it out.